Welcome back guys to the ultimate self-healing god build for Assassin's Creed Valhalla. You don't need your rations, you don't need to refill your health by manual pressing the D-pad button anymore. It will just do it automatically when you hit your enemies. That is totally crazy, totally overpowered, and we actually found a use for our crit chance to do all this crazy stuff. In this video I will actually show you two versions for this build where you can make this possible. The first one is using dual daggers and the second one will be using the totally op dual spears. There are actually perks in the game that allow you to heal yourself whenever you make a crit hit. So the game developers never anticipated us to get a very high crit chance. And that's the reason why they put these perks into the game. Healing on every crit is totally broken and you can totally abuse this. And you can also ignite your weapons whenever you make a crit hit, and that will also make the Daughters of Lyrian totally easy and burn them to ashes. As you know, the crit chance in this game is roughly the crit value divided by 4, but there are a lot of perks which can increase that crit value by a very big margin, and we will use almost every one of them in this build. Just check out the number of active perks here on that screen. We have over 7 active perks sometimes here when we play. These are all increasing our damage, crit chance and everything else. That is totally crazy, and special thanks to our community member Carl who brought up these ideas for these crazy builds. Let's first check out the inventory. Here we have the full Berserker set, but if you don't have that set, you will also be able to make a very good build by using the Mentor set, and I will show you that later on. Since we are self-healing every time we make a critical hit, we don't need so much health and so much armor here for that build. So what we do is we place the warrior runes +2 melee damage here on every of the right armor pieces. So in total we have 9 times the warrior rune with +2 melee damage on the right armor pieces. And then here on the torso we have another 2 armor runes. And then only on the head we go for 3 of the health runes, because these 3 health runes will give us a total of around 50 health points. The 18 plus 9 health will degrade relatively fast to be only 8 or 7 or even just 4 health when we use too much of them. But the +2 melee damage is degrading much slower because it has a very low value. So +2 melee damage will degrade to be only +1 melee damage when you use 4 or 5 of them, but it will still be +1 melee damage even if you use 10 or 11 of them. Only after that, when you use more than 11 melee runes, then it will really degrade to be less than +1 damage. But as long as it is giving you +1 or +2 damage, you can definitely use these melee damage runes. And that is definitely much better than using a slight armor or health buff or resistance buff. These resistance or health buffs will not be noticeable anyway, and since we are healing ourselves, it's better to go for full melee damage here. 11 melee damage runes, only 3 health runes to get the most out of it. For the special diamond rune here on the torso, we will use the increased speed when surrounded by more than 2 enemies, because that is a perk that automatically triggers in combat. The thing is, with many of these passive abilities with increased damage while full health or increased assassination damage while full health, they don't really work. They are not active once you fast travel and you have to unequip and re-equip your armor to make them active. That is really bugged in this game. Many of these perks cannot be used. So you should rather focus on using active perks that only trigger in combat, because these are sure to be triggered by the game. The passive perks don't work and they reset and they are not used after fast travel. That sadly also applies to the Berserker set bonus, but the Berserker set stats are still way better than of many other sets. Even without the passive bonuses here with the increased armor and attack, we have a lot more armor than in many other sets, and I still prefer to use the bear set, but if you want you could definitely use the mentor set. The mentor set has a combat triggered ability with increased speed, and that is definitely working. For our bow we will use a Viper bow. That is not meant to be used for any ranged damage here, just because the Viper bow has that crazy perk here with increased critical chance after hit up to 10 times. So we will increase our critical chance by every hit, and we will make a lot of hit with our daggers, and we can do it 10 times in a row to upgrade our crit chance. And then there's actually one rune that does exactly the same. So we will place that diamond rune here, and we have 2 times the increase whenever we make a hit to our crit chance. So that is really going to get crazy when we use it. And then we will place 2 crit chance runes on top of it here also on the Viper bow. These crit chances will be applied to both of our melee weapons. Every rune you place here on the bow will always be applied to both your melee weapons. So we will increase the crit chance for both of our melee weapons when we use the crit chance on our bow. Of course, light bows totally suck in this game, but just for the sake of making a better melee combat warrior build, we have to use that bow to get it really crazy. Of course, you can also use any other hunter bow, for example the Hunnish bow, and then just use one of these diamond runes with the crit chance perk. That will also be okay, but then you have a lesser effect for the crit chance. Then for our first dagger we will use the Copis. That is probably the best melee weapon in the game because it has a restore a low amount of health on every critical hit perk. That is the best perk in the game. Every critical hit will give you back a little amount of your health. And by daggers being so fast anyway, we will get a lot of health back and we will refill our health bar in no time when we use dual daggers. And since daggers are also relatively lightweight, we will use the increased critical chance the lighter you are perk here on the left dagger, and then we will also place 2 great rage runes with 8 attack in total. Please be aware that the increased critical chance the lighter you are is also a permanent passive perk, and that is being deactivated by the game currently when you use fast travel. So you will have to re-equip the dagger to make it active once you have fast traveled. For the second dagger we will use the Satanga's Claw. That also has a very good perk here, increased critical damage after each hit. We will use the diamond rune here from the beggar, which is increasing our attack after each consecutive hit. So that will also boost our attacks every time we make hits, with a lot of hits with our daggers. And then similar to the other dagger we use 2 + 4 attack runes, the great rage runes. As you probably know, the Berserker set is from the ultimate version and can be acquired via the shop, but you can also use the Mentor set as a replacement, and I will show you the Mentor's build right after that one. The Viper's bow can be easily acquired by the merchant, the Satanga's Claw can be found in Winchester in that location here on the map, and the Copis is a quest reward once you complete the Sussex quest arc. Just to demonstrate you the big bug here regarding all the passive runes in the game, as you can see the Light Deft rune here with the increased critical chance the lighter you are is currently active, but once you fast travel to the other travel point here in Sussex, you will see that it totally disappeared, and we will also not have the value added to our stats. So we see the Light Deft rune is completely missing, there's no symbol above the adrenaline. Only when we use the combat stuff here, that is going to trigger automatically. These runes will be there, but the permanent passive perks are disappearing after every fast travel. And that is a very huge bug, and you can't really use half of every perks here in the game just because of that bug. And that totally sucks. It really prevents you from making cool builds here in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Nothing of the full health perks, no of the permanent perks can be used currently in this game. For the Mentor set we will also use the spare version, but both of these sets are of course interchangeable. You can use the Berserker set with the spares, or you can also use the Mentor set with the daggers. On the 3 armor pieces here on the right side we will also use the +2 melee damage, so we have 9 +2 melee damage runes here on the right side, then another 2 melee damage runes on the armor, and we will also use the increased speed when surrounded by more than 2 enemies, because that's an active combat perk. On the cloak then again we will use 3 health runes. They will give us around 50 health in total, and more than that is not really useful. In general, the higher the values on the runes, the faster they are decreasing, and the lower the values are, the slower they are decreasing. So that's the reason why it is more useful to use a lot of these warrior melee damage runes instead of the health runes. For the bow we will again use the Viper bow with the increased critical chance after each hit, and we will place another diamond rune with the exact same perk and also the same crit chance, which will be applied to both of our melee weapons. There are only very few spares in the game, so we use the same spares as in our warrior spare build, which is the third spare here with the ignite your weapon on critical hits. That is really awesome, because then we will have a weapon which is on fire almost every time in every combat, and we will be able to deal the additional fire damage together with our melee attacks. That is really powerful, and ideally if you have the diamond rune which also gives you health on critical hits, then you could place that rune on the other spare. Sadly I didn't have that rune, so I only could use the health regeneration on the Copis, but if you have that rune, if you will ever get it, place it on the second spare, then you will have the best build possible currently for this game, with 2 overpowered spares which ignite fire every time you make a critical hit and heal yourself every time you make a critical hit as well. It can't be better than that. It's really a dream combination. The Mentor set is one of the late game sets. The mask can be found in the Sherwood hideout here in Nottinghamshire, and the cloak can be found in the other hideout in Nottinghamshire here further north. The other 3 set pieces, however, can be found in Wessex. The Mentor's robes can be found in Guildford in Wessex, then the Vambraces are found in the Enderitum hideout here in the southeast of Wessex, and last but not least the Mentor's trousers are in Winchester in the Winchester garrison. Similar to the other builds, the bow can be found at the merchant either in Ravensthorpe or in any other city on the map. Then the third spare can be found in Leicestershire in the off-church location, and Fafnir's Fang can be collected right at the beginning in Norway. The abilities you use don't really matter here, especially the hunter abilities are not really useful since we only have a light bow, but if you want to have some abilities here, then go with Focus of the Nornir, the Mark of Death, the Piercing Shot, and then for blasting the walls for your riddles, then you should use the Powder Trap arrows. For the melee combat abilities, I found it best to use Dive of the Valkyries or the Harpoony Payment to break the enemy's guards and also to drag them towards you that you can attack them with your fast attacks with the daggers and with your spears. The skills I have here are of course 400, so it is the entire skill tree, and I've already put 30 points here on the Bear Mastery as well. But of course you can also make this build with only a lower number of points, and the ideal skill path then would be that you go here in the Assassin tree first for Backstab, then you go here towards the Advanced Assassination, then all the way to Chain Assassination and the first Adrenaline, and then you move your way to the Bear tree here for the Bear Adrenaline bar. Right next to the Bear Adrenaline there's also the Berserker's Medal, which saves your adrenaline when you get hit, and for the Dual Wield, when you go for the spares, then you should go for the Dual Wield ability. Then here in the middle branch of the Bear tree you should go all the way up to Warrior Takedown, gives you 1 full adrenaline bar when you attack your enemies, and then here down to Adrenaline Fiend, which increases your damage for every adrenaline you have. And then last but not least, make your way down here to the last adrenaline slot in the Hunter tree, and don't forget Breakfall on your way. That way you only need 81 ability points, and that's a very minimal skill tree you have to have here. And then of course when you further progress, get all the other abilities until you reach 400 ability points. Now I will also show you the full fight versus the strongest daughter of Lyrian by using the spare build. Please don't forget to subscribe, leave me a like, and see you next time.